Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Wake Up CX. So, as I discussed on Monday, this week's episode is all about the sunk cost fallacy. So, I'm going to explain what that is, and I will give you a scenario from just this past week. So, I've been suffering from COVID. As a result, the whole family's been isolated in the house. Not really up to much, but, just trying to get by through each day, doing what we do. And as part of that, I'd left the room one of the nights so that my wife and my daughter could watch a film on TV. I wasn't interested in watching it, so I went upstairs and I was scrolling through on Facebook videos, just killing time. And I found a comedian that I thought was quite funny, but in the moment I just scrolled past it and completely forgot about it. The next morning, I wanted to tell my wife about this comedian. Something had come up in conversation. I was like, I saw this great video, I want to show it to you. So I did what I would normally do, picked up Facebook, scrolled through the videos. I seem to get the same videos over and over again, so surely this video is going to be front and centre within the first 5 minutes. That didn't happen, but I've got nothing else to do, so I just kept scrolling. And half an hour went by, and my wife sat there like, it's really not that important, like I don't need to see the video. And I'm like, no, I've put the time in now, that'd be stupid to stop, so I'm going to keep going. And I kept scrolling for another half an hour. Still didn't find this bloody video. At this point, me going on about it was now annoying my wife more than the video ever would have done. And her and my daughter decided they were going to watch some programme or what have you. So I was like, right, I'm just going to go upstairs, I'll have a quick look while I'm up there. And I sat lying on my bed, scrolling through Facebook videos for hours. Yeah, it's that easy to lose track of time and lose your day. Now, the idea behind the sunk cost fallacy is that you basically get to a point where you've invested so much time, money or effort that this is sunk cost. Like, this is your time, you're not getting that back. So it comes to a point where you need to make the decision, and it can be an ongoing time, like throughout this period you need to keep making this decision. And that is, do I stop? Do I change what I'm doing? Do I give up? Or do I just keep going? Is the investment that I've made committing me to keep moving forward? Now, in the scenario that I've just provided there, the investment was my time when I had really very little else to do. So it wasn't the end of the world. Yes, there was more productive things I probably could have done, but I was feeling pretty meh anyway. So I wasn't really up to doing anything much. So yeah, I decided I was going to keep going for a while. And I think I got in total to about 5 hours or so before I eventually just gave up. And I'm like, you know what, this video will hit me at some point when I least expect it. But one of the things that you have to come across during this is, what can you extract from the situation? So, yes, I'd lost my morning, being pretty stupid with myself. But during that process, I was coming across a lot of videos that my kids would enjoy. So I sent panda videos to my daughter, cat videos to my eldest. Just really stupid, pranky stuff to my son, things like that. And it gave people a bit of entertainment for the morning. I was doing their video curation for them, so they didn't bother needing to go and have a look. And a couple of fun laughs and jokes and all that. But again, it's that thing. You can apply this to any context. So when I talk about the sunk cost fallacy, I think it's something we've all experienced firsthand, but more often than not, we wouldn't know what name to put to it or anything like that. So when I wanted to frame this in the terms of customer service or customer experience, I'll put this into my world, because obviously I work for a dialer provider, so we do a lot of outbound campaigns and build them for people. So if you build a campaign or an outbound campaign, or whether you're in sales, you've built your own pipeline and you're working through your cadences and what have you, you invest a lot of time up front to building it. You want to identify your ideal customer. You're going to decide how you want to outreach, build it all out, your best methods, your dialing strategy, your email strategy, whatever you're doing. And you pack all this effort in up front, so you've got a huge amount of sunk cost straight out the gate. And then the moment you start dialing, you may start seeing a bit of a return. And over time, that return will increase. But you've also got the added cost of your staff, your time that you're putting in, because you have to pay for your staff's time. So that's an additional sunk cost every day that you're dialing. Every day that you're dialing, you've got more dialing charges, you've got, license fees and all the rest of it. So the longer you allow it to keep running, the more time you're sinking into this. But you then need to make the decision at some stage, is this campaign working or not? Now, if you try and make that decision in the first 24 hours, it could be very short-sighted. You know, you've put a huge amount of time to building this campaign and it's not panned out immediately straight out the gate. Let's throw it all under the bus and we'll move on to a new campaign. And then you have to outlay a huge amount of time again at the front before you start going. You could wait a little bit and say, all right, let's run it for 2 weeks. You know, let's see how it goes after 2 weeks, and then we'll make that decision. Is it worth continuing with this campaign, or do we need to go again? Or again, you could wait a much longer period and say, right, we're going to run the campaign for 2 months, whatever it is. Now, there's a number of ways in which you can approach this. One of them is that you can make the early decision, you know, cut bait and run very, very early. And that might be the right choice, it might be the wrong one. And, you know, 6 months down the line, you're going to have to explain this decision. But you only know the path that you've travelled, you know, so you don't know if you chose to cut and run at any particular stage, what would have happened if you kept with it? And that's always going to be a mystery, you know, maybe you were just round the corner from that big deal that was going to make it all worthwhile. And that's life, you know, once you made a decision, you just have to live with it. And there's no right or wrong answer, and I'm sure that there are many people out there that will have a story where they made the decision on day one and it turned out to be a great success, or they made the decision 2 weeks in, 2 months in, and it turned out to be a great success. Whatever it is, you need to decide. But the moment you do decide to cut and run, you've got to remember that all the possibilities that were out there are now gone. You know, you can't win something if you're no longer investing the time, money, and effort. So that's part of it. And the reason I wanted to do an episode on this is because I think it's an interesting topic in terms of what we can do. So it's not just the decision, do you move forward, do you stop? It's the decision of what value and lessons can we extract? Because people often think about it in terms of all the time, money and effort's piled in, and the moment you move away from it, it's all gone. Now, it's not all gone because you've got lessons learned, you know, things that you can improve on. Your staff got some experience dealing with rejection. These are all things that have value that aren't necessarily something you're going to put a dollar amount to during their lifespan. But it's there, and it is something you can take away. And then it also improves your chances for the next time out. You know, you take all your positives and all your negatives from the current campaign so that your next campaign is a stronger campaign, and then you do better. And that's fine. Obviously, that doesn't really apply to my videos. I lost the warning and that's it, it's gone. But it is a useful thing, and you don't need to worry too much about failure. It's part of the success. Like, you can't be a success without being a failure first, or very unlikely to be. On top of that, you don't always need to completely cut and run. You can adapt what you've already built. You know, you can make changes to it while it's live. It doesn't all need to be a gone, loss, everything. You can tweak it, make changes, try and extract a little bit more value, and see if that works. Again, it's that decision you need to make, how much more time and effort you want to invest into something. And then the final part of this is that you need to make sure that while you're in that sort of decision-making mode, that you don't let your effort and input drop. So if you're continuing to work on this campaign while you're making your decision, if your effort on that campaign then drops by 50-60%, you know, your language is becoming a bit depressed, your voice is a bit meh, you know, the results aren't going to suddenly generate themselves if you're performing worse yourself. So you need to factor that into your decision-making process, because you can't turn around and say, well, we've got to this point, got to the 1 week mark, we decided to give it another week, nothing turned around, but then on review you're like, but your staff really didn't care on that last week, nobody was invested in it, no one was giving it 100%, so where were the results going to come from? So what I would say is, whatever decision you make your decision and then, you know, act. Don't try and keep working while you're not sure. Because if you're not confident something's going to work, that's going to come across in your voice and your tonality, and it's not going to generate the results you want. So again, that's this week's episode. I'd love to receive some examples from yourselves on where you've experienced the sunk cost fallacy, Do you think it really exists? That's actually a question. A lot of people do say, you know, that it's in your mind, because there is no sunk cost until you make that decision to change, because until then it's just an investment in what you're doing. So, you know, what are your thoughts? Please let me know and share some examples in the comment section. So thank you, and you have a great weekend now.